We're diving headfirst into the chaos that is the United States of America, a country home to over 330 million people, each with their unique slice of the American dream, or nightmare, depending on how you look at it. But hey, let's be fair. Other countries have their own sets of problems too. Before we plunge into the details, let's get one thing straight. Every country has its own set of challenges. Whether it's the UK's Brexit woes, migrants crossing the English Channel in small boats, or France's never-ending strikes, no place is perfect. But today we're putting the spotlight on the good old US of A. And trust me, there's plenty to talk about. Lately, there's been a lot of chatter about the US being on the brink of collapse. So, is Uncle Sam facing a full-on crisis, or is it just a bad case of national indigestion? Buckle up, because we're about to dive into 12 of the biggest challenges facing the USA, with a lighthearted and a healthy dose of humor, but still respectful. Look at these challenges. Gotta stay positive, right? It is going to be a wild ride. Let's get started. Number 12. Immigration challenges. The immigration debate is hotter than a Texas summer. With Congress too busy campaigning, action is on hold. Border Patrol agents are setting records with migrant encounters at the US-Mexico border, thanks to policy changes. Over 10 million unauthorized immigrants are in the US, mostly from visa overstays rather than border crossings. Cities like Chicago are trying to help, but the costs are hitting hard, especially in sanctuary areas. Mayors from New York to Houston are shouting for federal backup, sparking a local versus federal responsibility tussle. Meanwhile, Arizona and Texas are rolling up their sleeves and taking charge, deploying resources to border communities and grumbling about the feds' inaction. Cities are freaking out about the cost, while states point fingers at each other. Mayors are begging for federal help. But will Uncle Sam come to the rescue? Stay tuned for this dramatic episode of The American Border. Number 11. End of Petrodollar Power. Imagine oil is the world's hottest new cryptocurrency, and the US dollar is the only way to buy it. That's basically the petrodollar system. This agreement with Saudi Arabia since the 1970s meant countries paid for oil in US dollars. In this agreement, Saudi Arabia agreed to price its oil exports exclusively in US dollars. In return, the US provided military protection and economic support. This system helped establish the US dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, meaning that countries around the globe hold dollars in reserve to pay for oil and other international transactions. Pretty sweet deal, right? But lately, this agreement is showing cracks. Other countries are getting restless and exploring other currencies for oil purchases. If this system crumbles, the impact on the US economy could be brutal. Here's why. A weakened dollar means imported goods become more expensive, which could lead to inflation. Think higher prices for everything from groceries to gas. The US relies on foreign investment, and if the dollar loses its shine, investors might take their money elsewhere. The US government borrows a lot of money by selling bonds. If investors lose faith in the dollar, interest rates on those bonds could skyrocket, making it even more expensive for the US to borrow. Before we move to number 10, if you are enjoying the video, please subscribe to our channel and share the video. It means a lot to us. Thank you. Number 10. Drug abuse and the opioid crisis. The opioid epidemic is like that annoying houseguest who just won't leave. Addiction rates are skyrocketing, and overdose deaths are wreaking havoc across communities. It's a crisis that needs more than just "don't do drugs" posters. Before the pandemic, drug overdose deaths were already alarming at 65,000 annually. Fast forward to 2023, and that number has nearly doubled to over 110,000, with fentanyl responsible for 70% of these deaths. Fentanyl is now the leading cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 45. While everyone agrees the death toll is horrific, there's no consensus on how to tackle it. Republicans want stricter law enforcement and tighter border security. Some Democrats and public health officials argue for treatment-focused solutions, emphasizing medication and therapy. Both sides support using fentanyl test strips to prevent overdoses, with states like Illinois and Pennsylvania leading the way. It's clear we need a multifaceted approach to kick this unwanted guest out for good. Number 9. Economic inequality. The economic inequality in the USA is wider than the Grand Canyon, and that's saying something. Picture this. Billionaires are throwing cash like confetti, while everyday folks are counting coins for their morning coffee. The rich are buying yachts that have their own zip codes, and the poor are stuck with bills as high as Everest. This gap isn't just a crack, it's a chasm threatening to swallow the middle class whole. It's like having a country where one side lives in lifestyles of the rich and famous, and the other side is stuck in a never-ending episode of Survivor Wallet Edition. If we don't bridge this divide, we might all end up in the economic quicksand together. Number 8. Racial and social inequities. Picture this. America, the land of opportunity. But here's the kicker. Opportunity isn't always created equal. Racial and social inequalities are like stubborn stains on the fabric of American society. People of color often face obstacles that white folks just don't, whether it's landing a job, buying a house, or even getting a decent cup of coffee at a fancy place. It's like playing a rigged game where the rules keep changing. The justice system? Don't get me started. For many minorities, it feels more like a game of whack-a-mole, stacked against them at every turn. Imagine dealing with systemic bias that makes achieving the American dream feel more like a fantasy. It's both frustrating and unhilarious, unlike this video, hopefully. But hey, sometimes we've got to laugh to keep from crying, right? Addressing these inequalities isn't just about acknowledging the problem. It's about taking action. From pushing for fairer hiring practices to reforming the justice system, there's a lot of work to be done. So let's roll up our sleeves and start ironing out those stubborn stains on our society's fabric. After all, the true American dream should be within reach for everyone. Number 7. National debt woes. The national debt in the USA is like a credit card bill that just keeps growing. And Uncle Sam forgot the due date. With the debt clock ticking past $34 trillion, it's a financial thriller no one wants to watch. Imagine if every American had to chip in, wait for it, over $103,000 each just to break even. Politicians argue over whether to spend or save, but it feels like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. The interest alone is a beast, gobbling up funds that could go to schools or infrastructure. If we don't get a grip on this fiscal frenzy, we might be in for a roller coaster of economic woes. Time to tighten the belt and fix this financial fiasco. Number 6. Political punch-up. Washington, D.C. is more divided than a reality show reunion these days. Politicians are so busy fighting they can't agree on anything, not even the best pizza topping. Pineapple is not a crime, fight me. This gridlock is like that friend who always orders fish, ruining the shareables vibe. Important bills are gathering dust faster than your gym membership you never use. Can these politicians ever find common ground? Or are we destined to watch them bicker like toddlers over a juice box? Stay tuned for this dramatic episode of The Divided States of America. Number 5. Gun violence. School shootings, random street violence. It's like a bad action movie playing out on repeat. Gun violence in the US is like an unwanted horror movie sequel that keeps getting worse, and we can't hit pause. Mass shootings and everyday gun crimes are grim reminders that we desperately need comprehensive gun control measures. Imagine living in a country where you're constantly stuck in a thriller, but without the happy ending. It's a real-life nightmare that keeps replaying, making us all wish we could change the channel. With gun-related deaths on the rise, and with over 40,000 deaths in 2023, it's clear that something needs to change. It's time for lawmakers to step up, roll out effective gun control policies, and turn this horror show into a thing of the past. Number 4. Retail theft. Imagine you're at your favorite store, ready to snag that new jacket, but then bam, someone snags it first and runs out the door without paying. Retail theft is on the rise in the US, and it's not just teenagers swiping candy bars anymore. We're talking shopping sprees that would make Kim Kardashian jealous, leaving stores feeling more ransacked than your fridge after a late-night raid. This is causing product shortages, higher prices, and maybe even shorter store hours. Because who wants to stay open if everything gets yoinked? It's a national issue that's turning store security into a cat-and-mouse game. Imagine trying to shop while security guards play hide-and-seek with thieves. Retailers are now demanding better laws and tech solutions to tackle this crime spree. It's high time we change the channel on this retail drama and bring back some order to the aisles. Number 3. Healthcare roulette system. The American healthcare system is a bit like playing roulette. Expensive, and you're never sure if you're going to come out on top. It is like a never-ending soap opera with plot twists no one asked for. High costs leave patients feeling like they've been hit by a plot twist every time they see the bill. Insurance coverage? It's like playing a game of hide and seek. You never know what's covered and what's not. Access to care is uneven, especially in rural areas where finding a specialist can be as rare as a unicorn. The healthcare staff are overworked, making hospital visits feel like a speed date. Meanwhile, medical innovations are happening faster than they can be implemented, leaving everyone playing catch-up. It's clear. The US healthcare system needs a major rewrite to get back on track. Number 2. Mental health crisis. The mental health crisis in the USA is like a pressure cooker without a release valve. Anxiety and depression rates are skyrocketing, leaving everyone feeling like they're on a never-ending emotional roller coaster. Access to mental health care is about as easy as finding a needle in a haystack, especially with the shortage of professionals. It's like trying to book a therapist is harder than getting tickets to a sold-out concert. Stigma around mental health? Still here, like that unwanted house guest. Meanwhile, rising costs of treatment make therapy feel more like a luxury spa day. The bottom line? America needs to fix its mental health system before the whole country has a collective meltdown. Let's give our minds the TLC they deserve. Number 1. A housing affordability and homelessness. The housing affordability and homelessness crises in the USA are like a tragic comedy, where the punchline is always out of reach. Renting an apartment feels like bidding in an auction, with prices soaring sky high. Buying a home? That's an even wilder dream, with average home prices skyrocketing and making it harder than finding a unicorn in your backyard. Add high interest rates into the mix, and it's like trying to swim with a backpack full of bricks. In cities like San Francisco and New York, the cost of renting can be more than your monthly income, and don't even get us started on buying. High interest rates mean mortgage payments are steep, turning the American dream into a pricey nightmare. Meanwhile, homelessness is on the rise, with many struggling to afford even basic shelter. Shelters and services are overwhelmed, and the streets are becoming home for too many. If you're not in the top 1%, navigating the housing market is like playing Monopoly with all the properties already owned by someone else. It's clear, we need policies that bring prices back down to earth, increase affordable housing, and provide support for those without homes. Until then, we'll all be stuck in this never-ending housing horror show. There you have it, folks. 12 challenges that might make you wonder if the USA is going through a midlife crisis. These are a complex web of challenges that require coordinated efforts and innovative solutions. Addressing these issues is essential for ensuring the country's continued growth, stability, and prosperity. Through collective action and strategic policymaking, the USA can overcome these hurdles and build a brighter future for all its citizens. But remember, every country has its ups and downs. It's all about how we tackle these issues and come out stronger on the other side. So, hit that like button, subscribe, share the video, and let us know in the comments which challenge you think is the most pressing. See you next time.